I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Brandon Wark. It's Monday. Wait, where's Bill? Oh, Billy's on vacation. Don't worry, Billy will be back. He's into the new year, taking some time off, enjoying time with his family. And typically, my co-hosts tend to be a little bit more progressive. That'll be the case tomorrow as Deep Singh Badesha of the Democrat Socialists of America joins me. Today, I'm like, let's go more the libertarian route. And so Brandon Wark, Free State, Colorado, joins us. Good morning, Brandon.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
So tell folks about Free State, Colorado. Like what, you and I have had some discussions and debates on things like drug policy and things like that in the past, but you are more, I think it's right to say, a little bit more libertarian. Right?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
You know, I think we have so many issues here in Colorado, and I think one of the big reasons that we are in such a bad state is because we have so much of the media controlled by the left, and so much of what they do really supports the Democratic agenda. So what I've been trying to do over the last 5 years with FreeStateColorado.com is elevate some of our liberty leaders. So give them a platform, do interviews, do videos, write articles, put some strategy together so we can actually make a free state.
I love it. I love it. There's a lot that we agree on, some things we disagree on, but that's the Jeff and Bill show today, the Jeff and Brandon show. So anything you hear, feel free to give us a call, jump in and join the conversation at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. We got a lot to talk about today. Friday, of course, the dump like at 5 p.m. that Faith Winter was really drunk, not kind of drunk, really twice the legal limit when she plowed into the back of a truck, killing herself, injuring others. But this wasn't a shock to people. In fact, as it happened, a lot of people were like, wait, was she possibly drinking? Because she had been reprimanded by her own Democrat colleagues for being drunk while at work. And then her fiance, Matt Gray, gets a DUI while trying to pick up his kids from school drunk. So here's my question. Should Democrats have known and done more? If somebody's in your life and they've got a drinking or addiction problem, do you bear some responsibility if you don't try to confront them? And in this case, Democrat members of the caucus knew that Faith Winter had a drinking problem. Should they have done more? We'll get into that. Plus, the Minnesota fraud and its connections to possible fraud here in Colorado. This story just gets crazier and crazier. Lauren Boebert getting a wolf delisting bill passed. What does that mean for wolves in Colorado? And then we'll talk Venezuelan blockade. I'm sure my libertarian friend and I will have some interesting conversations on that. It is a jam-packed show. Now is time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good Monday morning, 42 and clear. Feels a little cooler 3 days before Christmas Eve in Denver. Expecting a high of 71 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, Aurora police say a teen boy died Sunday after being fatally shot. Police arrived on scene and found the victim lying in a driveway. Officials say he was pronounced dead on the scene. At the scene, and if you have any information about this, call Aurora Police. Xcel Energy is nearly done restoring power to customers affected by last week's windstorms. About 1,100 customers still without power as of early this morning. Most of Boulder County are those affected.
The hippies are fine.
That's right.
They'll be okay. They're used to wanting to live the communist lifestyle.
That's right, man. They don't need electricity.
They have their crickets to eat, their cats to cuddle with.
Pot to smoke.
Pot to smoke, that's right. They just check out a little bit.
Yeah, if they have matches, then they're okay. Jags at the Broncos on Sunday, early in the third. I was thinking about Jeff here. Broncos down 17-10.
Handoff Harvey, and now a big run up the middle, breaking tackles, and R.J. Harvey on the move, down the sideline. Harvey diving for the pylon. Touchdown Broncos.
Oh, that was a great run. Later in the third, Jeff's watching, and it's tied at 17.
Lawrence will keep. Lawrence will walk in, and the Jaguars lead once more.
That is a really good football team. Trevor Lawrence takes it in himself, and the Jags end the Broncos' 11-game win streak. And Lawrence, 279 yards passing, 3 touchdowns in the air, 1 on the ground. Bo Nix, though, Jeff, 352 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, but a costly fumble during the mesh on an option play. And I've been through that before. The Broncos still lead the AFC West at 12-3, 34-20. Jags the final at Kansas City Christmas Day.
I felt like our gaps were in the secondary, right? It felt like missed tackles and big openings and big gains.
Yeah.
So I felt like if we tightened up our secondary, we'd be winning. That's Mr. Football Pro.
Trevor Lawrence was great. I mean, he did a great job just adjusting to everything. And they're just good, man. They are really good.
How's that wide receiver that had his he was carted off with his neck? I don't know. I haven't seen the update this morning.
I think he's going to be okay. I think he's stable is what I heard. I'll check on it. I can't.
He got Trevor Lawrence. He got that hit on that dead play.
What's his name? Locke is going to pay for that. He will be fined for that.
I think
that hurt just watching it.
But I agree, and it seemed like he should have let up. I mean, anytime you have a quarterback just standing nonchalantly.
Yeah, that was
drill him.
Especially in this day and age where the quarterbacks are protected, and that was something you'd see in the 70s. I mean, how quarterbacks used to get beat up, and you don't expect to see that now. But yeah, he's going to pay a hefty fine. Let me see.
Pat Bryant out of the hospital. He does have a concussion. Here's ESPN. Broncos wide receiver Pat Bryant was discharged from an area hospital Sunday night after being diagnosed with a concussion, but cleared from other major injuries following a big hit in the final minute. You could see it on Bo Nix's face when. They're down 2 scores with a minute left, right? So you're kind of like, well, let's push it here. It might just come together. You never really know. And then you watch your wide receiver just, have his head replaced from his back, and then you could see it on Bo Nix's face where he's just like, that was so stupid. We just should be done with this.
That's a very good point. I think you read it well. All right, let's listen to Sean Payton.
A couple things first. Obviously, a disappointing loss. All the things that were important or are important to winning, we didn't do a good enough job with, and that starts with me. They were better on third downs. They won the turnover battle. They won the kicking battle.
Jeff
and so now we have a short week to digest it. You can't spit it out. You got to swallow it, and that starts with every one of us. So.
All right, so at Kansas City on Christmas Day.
I heard the tickets are going for $36 right now.
Are they really? Yeah, those great Chiefs fans, they show up no matter what. Where are you, Chiefs fans?
Christmas
Come
Day.
on.
I end this. I feel the same way about basketball on Christmas Day. I'm just like, really?
I don't like that either.
Like to interrupt people's families and all this stuff. They got to travel. And,
yes.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being too weak, but.
It's all about the TV.
Seems like maybe spend some time. Maybe we could have a holiday where you spend time with family. I don't know.
Come on.
Yeah.
That kind of ruins it. You're right. But, by Christmas afternoon, a lot of people are done. I mean,
if you're a parent, you're like ready for the nap,
right? Absolutely,
because
absolutely.
you're up late because Santa's busy the night before,
Oh, man.
and so that keeps you up late and crazy, and then the kids are up at 5,
Right.
and so the craziness running down the stairs to see what Santa brought.
I mean, I'm sure you and your wife are the same way, but when the kids were young, man, I mean, there were nights and days, Christmas days, probably 3
No
or
sleep.
4, where I literally, right after they woke up, I went to bed. After I got photos and video and all that, and I just went, I mean, that is brutal, especially if you're building something all night and trying to stay quiet and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Look, Santa's busy, and you just never know. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've had some rum. So what I'm saying is really Christmas Eve isn't that like when everyone really celebrates the solitude and the, and the quiet, So I guess by, the afternoon, everyone's done with all of it, and they're
ready to watch some sports.
Yeah, watch football and basketball. Because my wife hasn't had to watch enough of that already. She's losing her mind, man. She's like, what? More football with the playoffs, college football playoffs, and the NFL. Okay, I'll go on here. And
well, Gabe texted in. He's thrilled because the Raiders got some
How about
points.
The Raiders. Yeah,
They win?
exactly.
I didn't see. I don't know
I
how the
think
Raiders
they won. Did they win that game? I didn't even look.
Sorry, Gabe.
Yeah, sorry, Gabe.
Gabe's just thrilled to see.
So
got some
bad. But I think
points
they
on the
won.
board.
I think they may have won. I gotta look it up. All right, a man is hospitalized after being shot by police in North Glen. Officers investigating a suspicious person call near the North Glen Marketplace around 9:15 Friday. He tried to flee and was shot by police. He's expected to survive. A United Airlines employee has died while working at DIA after a vehicle crash early Friday morning. The U.S. Occupational Health and Safety Administration will be investigating. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says that Russia and Ukraine want peace. Thank God. A series of productive and constructive meetings have been held over the past several days in Florida. Jeez, let's hope so. We got a lot to talk about this morning, and we'll have that coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. The Avalanche extended their winning streak to 5 games with the 5-1 win over the Wild in Minnesota. Nathan McKinnon with 2 goals. Cale Makar and Brock Nelson each had a goal and 2 assists. Jazz at the Nuggets tonight, tip-off 7 o'clock. Colts and the Niners this evening. Can Phillip Rivers win tonight? We'll see. That'll be fun to watch. 42 in Aurora, 39 in Golden, 43 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Bill, but Brandon is in for Billy. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. We don't have Billy to give us an in-depth analysis of where these Christmas songs come from. But he'll be back. Don't worry. We all love Bill. I'm glad he's having some time off. It's always good around this time of the year. So live in studio with us is Brandon Wark, Free State, Colorado, co-hosting with me today. Brandon, libertarian, leader of Free State, Colorado. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. So you were down at the state capitol. You used to work there a little bit, huh?
Yeah, back in 2017, I was a legislative aide, and I'm still really heavily involved. I'll be down there quite a bit during the legislative session coming up in January. You know, it's important that people show up, participate, and get involved in our state government. You know, there's so many committee hearings I've sat in where bad legislation's being passed. It takes away our rights, maybe infringes on our ability to defend ourselves, and there's so few people sometimes who show up and speak out. So I really encourage people to get involved in the state capitol.
Well, here's what I've noticed. Because I used to run the lobbying efforts for Colorado Christian University via the Centennial Institute. So we were down there testifying all the time. And you'd watch these lawmakers, particularly in a legislature that's so controlled by Democrats. And you're like, they're not paying attention. So they're just kind of on their phone scrolling the whole time. And you're like, I feel like this is a formality, that they don't care at all what I have to say, that somebody bigger and more important is not only influencing the bill, but seems like writing the bill, determining what's actually going on, and I'm just this like sideshow in a much deeper effort put on by someone with a lot more money. And that's where I kind of came to the realization that these people are just delivery boys and girls for special interest groups. Is that kind of the case? I mean, you work down there.
Yeah, I'd say so. You know, so many of these bills are written by these special interest groups or nonprofits, you know, all these people who are attached and connected to the Democratic legislature in general. So, yeah, by the time it gets to a committee hearing, by the time it gets to the floor, the cake's already been made. You know, they know what's going to go. But nonetheless, our ability as individuals, as citizens, to participate, to have a voice, you know, we can't just let them get away with this without saying something, you know, and I think that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah, and you try to expose some of the craziness in this legislation, but alas, total Democrat control. And I think it contributes in part to the drinking that takes place down there, which is where I want to go. Fascinating headline Friday, right after everything's done. Of course, this comes out. Colorado Democratic Senator Faith Winter was legally drunk when she caused the car crash that killed her. In fact, more than 2 times the legal limit. And this wasn't really a surprise to people because she had been reprimanded back in 2024 for drinking while out in public. I think she attended a public hearing in North Glen at the time and couldn't string a sentence together, could hardly walk. And she's in front of her constituents, all these people. The video was horribly embarrassing, but she went through a whole investigation, reprimanded by her colleagues. So people knew she had this problem. Thank God she didn't at least hurt or injure, kill anybody else in this. Well, maybe she did injure other people, but didn't kill anybody in this situation. But do you think her colleagues should have done more?
You know, it's so hard to say. There is this culture of drinking down at the state capitol for sure. You know, when I was a legislative aide, now it was years ago, don't get me wrong. But, you know, there'll always be rumors about, okay, well, that person's got, you know, maybe a mixed drink or some sort of alcoholic beverage in their thermos or their coffee cup, something along those lines. I mean, it wasn't totally uncommon, especially, you know, towards the end of the legislative session when you're down there for 12 plus hours a day and there's a lot of stress and, you know, it's tough. So I get it. You know, I think in politics, unfortunately, there is a lot of substance abuse and alcohol abuse as well.
Why do you think that's the case?
I think some of it's the stress. You know, maybe on some level there's a little bit of guilt because they know they're passing such bad policies. You know what I mean? You got to drown out your moral compass in some regard. I think there's potentially there, but you know, and it's unfortunate because you do see these legislators who get pulled over drunk. You know, and like you said with Matt Gray and others, where they say, "Don't you know who I am? I'm a state rep. Look me up. Google me." You know, and nobody cares. You know what I mean? You're just a guy, and you're breaking the law. You deserve what you get. And yeah, so unfortunate with Faith Winter. I mean, it is a tragedy. You know, she did show up to that April 2024 North Glen Community Hall meeting visibly intoxicated. I mean, it was live streamed. I mean, they had the district, I believe it was like the district attorney or somebody's like, you cannot drive you cannot drive home. You're going to have to get a cab or an Uber. Like, it's that bad, and she was investigated by the Senate Ethics Committee on a 4-1 vote. They did reprimand her. They could have done a lot more in terms of censure, but, it was a real sensitive subject because this poor lady has serious issues and has some problems, and it's unfortunate. Actually, at the end of the 2024 legislative session, she was voting remotely from rehab, which is a whole other story.
I didn't know that.
And some of the most controversial bills of the state legislative session, of course, come at the very end of the session. So she's in rehab and they do remote. There's snow and there's different situations where a remote vote makes sense. But yeah, Faith Winter was actively in rehab, making votes happen, deciding policy for the state of Colorado.
I guess what makes me frustrated and angry, one is that she was on a pathway that resulted in the death of her life prematurely, right? So that's terrible because someone was irresponsible and died early and could have killed other people, did injure other people. So she was, by definition, reckless. And Democrat colleagues down there saw it, knew it. The president of the Senate, it's part of her caucus, or his caucus. This would be James Coleman, I think, is the president of the Senate, right? So he's kind of leading all these senators. And they go, okay, go get rehab. You're drunk in public. Go get rehab. It clearly didn't work. It didn't result in change. I wonder, I doubt you're going to get this from any actual enterprising media entity in the state as to whether or not they were aware that she continued to have a problem and just let her serve in Senate because, God forbid, we lose power, right? Like, they're going to do a vacancy committee, but, is it more important to the Democrats down at the state capitol to have power than it is to actually address this issue? What do you think?
Well, and I think, Faith Winter was in a powerful position. She was the third highest ranking Democratic senator. So she was in a privileged position in a lot of regards. I mean, there's a great quote from the Colorado Sun back in 2024 during this ethics investigation where it says, quote, colleagues were concerned for years about her drinking. And I know Bob Gardner, because it was a bipartisan committee, Republican Bob Gardner had said, gosh, this is part of a bigger pattern. And James Coleman was actually the only one to vote against or vote in favor of her. The 4-1 vote, he was the one who didn't go after her for this ethics violation as being a sitting state legislator showing up drunk to a community meeting and kind of violating that standard that the legislators should have for themselves. So it's very unfortunate. I think it's really bad stuff. And unfortunately, and Senator Winter, I mean, not to speak ill of her, but was responsible for some of the worst legislation we've had in Colorado as well.
Do you have specifics on that?
Oh, yeah. Senate Bill 166 back in 2024 was an anti-oil and gas bill. She went after him again in 2023 with 1294. The preferred name in schools bill, you may remember from 2024 as well, House Bill 1039, where a kid decides to say...
The crash couch? Is that the bill?
Yeah, that was part of it. Faith Winter kind of infamously said she had a crash couch at her house for kids who are maybe trans or going through something and didn't want to get away from their parents so they could go stay at her house. That's a whole other topic there. Big problems. But yeah, so kids can go to school and say, hey, Mr. Teacher, this is my preferred name. Tell me what, you got to call me this. And under state law, you have to, and so she's responsible for that. Of course, banning of the abortion reversal medical procedures, Senate Bill 190 back in 2023. And then actually part of the reason this controversy now with speed cameras all across Colorado, especially up where I'm at in northern Colorado, up in Weld by Kersey, that was Senate Bill 23-200, which really added to the proliferation of speed cameras we're seeing all across the state. So she was big on transportation, on trying to get more people to write RTD and go after cars. And of course, speed cameras was a part of that. So unfortunately, horrible, tragic situation, but also we can't neglect to mention the horrible policy that was passed by her during her tenure in the state legislature. For 11 years, she was down there.
Clearly irresponsible in her own life, and fortunately didn't result in serious injury for anybody else. But I did find it interesting that the media won't talk about the other types of injuries in the crash. We're talking Faith Winter legally drunk 2 times the limit when she plowed into a pulled over truck on I-25, instantly killing herself. And do the Democrats down at the Colorado State Capitol bear any responsibility? This was not a surprise. Oh, wait, what? Wait, was Faith Winter drunk? We had no idea. She was actually reprimanded. Whole Senate investigation for being drunk while doing constituent work. Do you hold her responsible? Do you hold the Democrats down at the state capitol responsible? And will they pay any electoral consequence? Do you think the voters of Colorado going, you know what? Clearly, it's just a party down there at this point. The Democrats do whatever they want. There's nobody to hold them responsible. Republicans out, near super minority status. So, do you think voters are ready to turn anything around? Go ahead, Brandon Warren.
Well, I was going to say, you're going to love this, Jeff. Not only are they drinking at the state capitol, but there were times when people were smoking marijuana. Legislators, Democrat legislators, smoking marijuana on the balcony. Sometimes if you're watching or you're down at the state capitol, you see those big windows open up next to the well, and they sneak out there, especially during the summer. It's nice. I know some of the great Republicans were smoking cigars and stuff like that, which is, fine. But yeah, no, there's definitely been situations where you have Democratic legislators, especially your DSA friends out there, smoking some marijuana, so I figured you'd love that.
Timmy Hernandez, I don't know. We don't know. Maybe. But seems like one that may partake of Elizabeth Adams flying the Palestinian flag. All right. Feel free to join the conversation. Would love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Join the conversation. Brandon Work, live in studio, Free State, Colorado. Let's talk advanced hair restoration, folks. How about a simple New Year's resolution? One that even I could achieve. I know. Reverse the clock on hair loss with Advanced Hair's simple one-day FUE treatment. You will feel more confident and more youthful when you witness your own natural hair growing into those places that have been balding or thinning for years. Look, I've had family members get hair transplants done. They lost their hair when they were 18 years old, and it really did transform their lives. It brought back a youthfulness into every relationship from work, gave them more energy, personal relationships. It really does change things. From Advanced Hair's breakthrough technology to their highly experienced team, there's no one I trust more in hair restoration. Their simple FUE treatment begins regrowing your own natural hair the very next day. And your new hair is backed by Advanced Hair's guarantee. Simply put, Advanced Hair's exceptional standard of care makes your comfort and your results their top priority. Celebrate their new year with a fuller head of hair and get a free consultation, $250 off, and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. Discover what meeting your resolution could look like with the before and after pictures at advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right, we'll continue. Billy out. Brandon Works in Free State, Colorado. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's news talk leader, 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Is it on? We good to go, Adam? Sometimes the computer has its issues. There we go. Back on. Now I can hear myself. Good morning. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy's out live in studio with me. Brandon Mark, Free State, Colorado. We're talking Faith Winter. 2 times the legal limit. My goodness, when she drunk crashed into the back of a pickup truck, injured others. And this was, you know, I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead here, the way the left does. There's some people that were assassinated. But in this case, this was a known problem to Democrats down at the state capitol. Do you hold them accountable when she had been reprimanded professionally in a vote by her colleagues for being drunk while at work? Then, what was it, a year, 2 later, dies in this DUI car crash. What's happening down at the state capitol? Is it getting out of hand? Is it too lopsided to the point where you can be drunk while at work, just face a reprimand, a little slap on the wrist? Hey, next time. And look, I understand that lawmakers like to go down to the Churchill and drink a little bit and have an old-fashioned and smoke a cigar after work, but this seems like a little different. Brandon, what's your take on this? I mean, it seems like, here's my perspective, that this was a well-known problem, that she wasn't just cooling off after work. You know, she was drunk, showing up, I mean, seriously drunk, not able to communicate, stumbling around, reprimanded, kind of goes to rehab a little bit, but clearly isn't cured of the issue. I think it was upon the leadership of the Senate Democrats down there to probably have stepped in and said, at this point, it would be best for you to resign your seat and go get the work and help you need. We want to see you back in politics. That's fine. I don't mind that. But right now you are openly drunk while at work. We need somebody here that can do the job soberly. I don't know. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, no, Jeff, I think that's the right call there. You know, leadership and having some sort of standard. You know, people knew for years it was a problem. And ultimately, you know, politics is important, obviously. And for some of us, it's an obsession. But there's more important things, you know, it's your health, your family. Making sure that you're right in mind is, of course, important. So, you know, it would have been nice. Maybe this did happen. We don't know, right? Maybe somebody did tell Faith Winter, hey, resign, take the time you need to get healthy, to get right. And step down, because now we are facing another vacancy committee. We're facing a situation in which, you know, we're going to have another appointed appointed senator down at the state capitol here, not voted in by the people. And I mean, it would have been great if she would have resigned maybe before the 2024 election, because 2024 was when she was in rehab. You know, if they could have resigned at that point, brought somebody else in, got some new fresh blood, somebody of right mind and soundness. But, you know, you got to think the job that these people have to represent the community, right? There's a responsibility there. And to be derelict in that duty in terms of being drunk at the state legislature or showing up drunk at town hall meetings, driving drunk, as we've seen, there's a responsibility there. And these legislators should be held to a standard. And when it happened the first time, there should have been a resignation. And imagine if we lived in a society where there was that level of accountability. And maybe I'm falsely thinking of this nostalgia from the past, but you would think there used to be scandals, right?
Yeah,
now
right.
We expect it. Now we almost expect it. And what does that say about our culture and our political scene, where in the past you can say, oh my gosh, somebody did something improper, they're going to resign, they're going to shy from public life. Now it's like, no, you could show up to a town hall meeting drunk, you could show up at the state legislature, you can do all of these things. It can be a well-known problem for years, and there's not that sense of self-respect to say, you know what, I need to step down.
But going back to our initial conversation about how it actually works down at the state capitol, where you're just a delivery boy for all these special interests, like, who cares if you're drunk, right? Like, you in one capacity, you don't even write the bills. I remember talking to Hugh McKean about this because we were fighting comprehensive sex education, right, down at the Colorado State Capitol, which is just stupid. Like, we're taking that out of the role and responsibility of parents and handing it to the government. Like, the government's going to talk to a government run by progressive special interests is going to teach your kids about sex. Yay. Like, what a great society we live in now. But I remember sitting there going like, it doesn't even seem like the Democrats know what's in this bill. And so I go talk to Hugh McKean, who, God rest his soul, was the leader of the House at that time, or the Republicans in the House. And I go, who do you negotiate amendments with? Like, if we wanted to take amendments to a lawmaker, he goes, I just have to call the authors of the bill the ACLU and Planned Parenthood. Because the Democrats don't know what's in the bill. They're like a whole bunch of Nancy Pelosi's. We have to pass the bill to see what's in it because they didn't even write it. So who can, like, on one hand, this is the point I'm trying to make, is like, if somebody else is writing the bill, somebody else is getting you elected, somebody else is fundraising to get you down there, and you just show up and you just press a button, yay, nay. Like, it's, you read your text message, the ACLU wants me to vote nay. Beep. Why not be drunk at this point? Welcome to the state of Colorado.
Hey, you bring up a good point. Maybe that's why they're drinking so much, and if they're just taking orders and they're being told what to do, you got to think, as somebody who with a lot of these politicians have a big ego and a lot of pride, maybe you're down there and you say, oh my gosh, I'm the decision maker. I'm making all these great choices for our state, and then you're told what to do by somebody else. I could see that as a reason maybe why they want to drown their sorrows a little bit down there. But ultimately, we have to hold them to account, and we have to hold them to a higher standard. We can't accept the things that are now unless we want to create a better society for ourselves and better state legislature. So we need to push these politicians. They should know what's in the bill. They should know what they're voting on. They should be active participants in the actual process, and it's only going to happen if citizens start holding them accountable, which means showing up at the legislature, getting involved, showing up at town halls. Hey, bring your phone to your town hall and see if the legislator's drunk. Maybe that's at step one. You know what I mean?
Well, at the least entertaining. Brandon Warwick, Free State, Colorado. What about Republicans down there? I feel like if anybody's going to drink, it's the Republicans, because what can you do other than just yell from the sidelines at this point?
Yeah, no comment. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a problem, unfortunately. When I was down there, I mean, like I said, that was kind of the joke, who's drinking. And, you go to these offices, and I get it, they're down there late, and maybe it's after hours, right? After hours, you're having a little bit of scotch in the office or something like that. That's their right. They should be able to do that. But, of course, there's a line, just like anybody has when you're at work, when you're actually doing the job of representing your community. You would hope that these people would be held to a higher standard. But, unfortunately, I think there is issues on both sides. And, I mean, you got to think, too, Jeff, these people are supposed to be representative of the community, and unfortunately in Colorado, we're one of the highest states for alcoholism, for drinking. Of course, as you
talked, was going to solve all that, Brandon.
Well, I was going to say, of course,
they told me
the drug use that you love to bring up with marijuana and things like that. So, if these people are representative of the community, maybe 1 out of 100 of them are drunk at the time. Maybe that's an accurate representation of our state. I don't know.
Way to represent Colorado, and then we'll all go hike a 14er. Brandon Warwick, Free State, Colorado's live in studio. So, Brandon, there's going to be a vacancy appointment for Senator Faith Winter's vacancy, which is today or tomorrow? Is
tomorrow night, December 23rd at 6:30. There's a vacancy committee. It's really interesting too, because this is the same area that Shannon Byrd represents, state representative, and she just announced her resignation as well because she's going full time running for Congress because she doesn't have the money, so she needs to really stop her time at the legislature.
It's all behind Manny, I guess, right? Explain to people. I don't know if you know this, but I'm just going to throw it to you. How the vacancy committee works. And why it's kind of a problem in Colorado.
Definitely. I mean, right now we have nearly a quarter of our legislators, maybe even a little bit more. I think the highest we've seen is around 30 or so. And there's 100 legislators in our state capital, 35 state senators, 65 state reps. And yeah, to say that a quarter of them are appointed. So when somebody resigns or there's a tragedy like this, there's a committee, a vacancy committee for that Senate district, which is made up of maybe 30 to 40, maybe even more, 60 people it could be. But it's really that committee is made up of Democratic Party members or party members. If it was a Republican, it'd be Republican Party members. So you got the electeds potentially in that area, like county commissioners under this new bill that passed this last year. But then also people who are basically party activists, right? The most active people in the party make up this vacancy committee. And you're going to have, this is the big problem, Jeff, is you have 30 people maybe voting to say, hey, this person's now going to represent 65,000 people in our community. And it's behind closed doors, making deals, maybe somebody they've known for years, and say, hey, we're going to put this person in. Now, there has been some attempts at vacancy committee reform over this last year. We did have a decent bill pass with bipartisan support, but ultimately, yeah, we're probably going to see Representative William Lindstedt. He's really the front runner here, who's already declared, because Faith Winter was term limited, so he's already announced candidacy for the Senate district seat, but he's probably going to be voted in tomorrow night as just by a group of people behind closed doors in a smoke-filled room to decide who's going to be your next state senator. So if you live in this area, if you're in the North Glen area or kind of northern Denver area, I mean, get involved, find out who these people are, and really try and have a voice, because especially somebody who's appointed, they need to know they still work for the people, and they should represent the values of the people in that community, and that's all the people, not necessarily just party members. So it's really important to get involved. But yeah, we're going to see that. And then, of course, William Lindstad is a state rep, so then there's going to be a vacancy committee to fill his seat. So now we're going to have somebody probably totally new to the state legislature come in, and they're going to be decided by 30, 40 people. And yeah, that's going to be who's representing your community, your area of Denver in the state government for this 2026 legislative session, which I can tell you is going to be very, very interesting.
I think, didn't Barack Obama get appointed via vacancy committee to the Senate or something like that? Or no, state Senate, when he first started.
A lot of people, a lot of legislators, a lot of politicians.
Got in.
Yeah, they start their career being appointed, and that's what's so crazy about it, because that's how a lot of the worst ones get in. I know you're good friends over on the DSA. That's how they get appointed. You know, Lorena Garcia and some others. They start off with a vacancy committee. They get appointed, and sometimes you see the Democrats put the furthest left people in. Maybe they couldn't win an election their first time because their views are so extreme, because they hate capitalism, they hate free markets, they hate you as a taxpayer, they hate the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, and they hate your ability that you can defend yourself with a firearm. So they get appointed, and now they're the incumbent, right? And so they've been able to fundraise, they've been able to work with lobbyists and all these special interest groups we were talking about, and build up this war chest. And now the House PAC or the Senate PAC is going to get behind them. You know what I mean? These 527s, the House Majority PAC on the Democratic side is going to already have money built in for them, and they've been able to fundraise. And fundraise being a state senator or state representative is a lot easier than being fresh and brand new to the process. So their chances of winning on that incumbency is huge. You know, incumbents win more than challengers do for a lot of those reasons we just talked about. So it's a challenge for sure, and I think it's something that there needs to be more reform for. We have seen a lot of bipartisan support. You know, give credit where credit's due. We had Bob Marshall down at Highlands Ranch in House District 43 actually put forward a good bill with Larry Don Sukla, one of my favorite state reps we got down there from the Western Slope. They had a great bipartisan bill. Oh, he's awesome. But they had a bipartisan bill to make it a little bit more transparent and kind of get rid of some of these vacancy committees. So we have some reform, but nothing's going to pan out yet until 2027 with the new bill that passed this year, which we don't need to get into now. But yeah, it's an issue. There's legislators who are being appointed, they're not being elected, and they are going to be making big decisions that are going to...
But do you think the voters really care? That's the thing. Like when I go down and... Because I talk to Democrats more than any other Republican, I think, in the state, because not only do they call on my show and tell me how dumb I am, they go host these rallies, and I go talk to them down there, and it just seems like they just hate Trump. Like, right? It's like, well, you have literally a drunk, well-known senator for being drunk, plows into the back of a car, kills herself. They'll vote Democrat, and anyways, they'll just continue to vote Democrat because, you know, Trump.
Right. No, that's a great point, Jeff, for sure. But I think, you know, kind of tearing away at the veneer of legitimacy of our state government is not necessarily a bad thing either. You know,
I agree entirely with that. I just wish it would land. And I wonder sometimes why it doesn't with these folks, in part because I don't think they're paying attention all that much, right? So you see this in polling from Magellan Strategies, for instance, where they like hate the direction of the state and then keep electing Democrats. And you're like, you know, one party has total control of the state. That dynamic is fascinating to me. So they're all in on the Democrat Party. I mean, all in. And then they complain about the direction of the state. I'm like, what? Like, help me understand that dynamic right there.
That's a great point. You know, the polling shows that the support for the Democratic Party, the favorability for the Democratic Party nationwide is the lowest it's ever been. Yeah. I mean, so there is an opportunity there, but you need a functional Republican Party. You need good candidates to run. You need some organization. I mean, really the Democrats, why they have control over our state government is because they have an organization, because they have full-time staffers at all these NGOs and recruiting candidates. You know, I believe even Faith Winter was part of either Emerge or some of these other groups out there, like New Era Colorado and others who are out there recruiting people, grooming them, for lack of a better word, getting them placed in positions so when there is a vacancy committee they can get in. But there's a full-time Democratic establishment. There's a political class out there that's what their job is, and they do it. Where on the Republican side, you don't see that, right?
No.
You don't see that long-term organizational structure being built. And ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to. And then, of course, hey, you get the complicity of the media helping the Democrats out and saying, oh, yeah, you know, I mean, how many news articles out there about this horrible tragedy with Faith Winter didn't even mention mention how drunk she was. You know what I mean? Or didn't mention the past and the seriousness of it. I mean, I got to give the Colorado Sun a little bit of credit there because they did talk about, hey, yeah, this has been a problem for years, and people have talked about it, and there's been major concerns going on for a long time.
But even that, Jesse Paul was the writer, and Jesse, when she passed away, I really had a great friendship with her and stuff. I mean, you could. My critique of the media is that they're fraudulent in the sense that they don't do news. They're all little progressive activists. They all vote for Democrats. They're right out of the same cloth as a Democrat lawmaker. They just happen to go into media, and then they claim the mantle of news. You're not doing news. You're a progressive activist.
Well, and that's why what you're doing is so important. That's why people should listen to 710
I'm not doing
though.
anything that's important. But yeah, no, you are.
Well, and that's why I try and do too. But there's a lot of good people out there, and that's why I have a lot of optimism and hope because we have this new media, because we have YouTube, we have social media, we have ability to get out there on podcasts and present a different view, because it doesn't take too much digging to really understand what's happening and expose it. And people are shocked. People are shocked when you tell them, "Oh my gosh, this is the bill they just passed. This is what they're doing. This is what they want to do with your kids. This is what they want to do with your business." Why are things getting worse? It's because of what's happening in the state government. And like you said, the media doesn't really want to talk about that with their good buddies. You know, they're at those same cigar-filled smoke rooms, drinking that scotch after hours, you know, having a great time with them. So it's an institutional problem for sure, but there's an opportunity there. There is an opportunity there because there are people who want us to see a change. And it just depends. Are we motivated enough to get organized, to put forth the effort and to change Colorado? And I think we can do that if we really want.
He's optimistic, and he's live in studio. That's Brandon Work, Free State, Colorado. We're going to continue the conversations. He's filling in for Bill Thorpe today. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy's out this week. Enjoying some time with family. He'll be back in the new year. I'm only on 3 days this week. And then Pete will be on Friday. And then covering for Billy and I next week. Let's see. Chest Rockwell texting in, being a Colorado native for 50 years. I can say this with absolute certainty. If the Republican Party here pushes Victor Marks aside, they have lost the state forever. Wow. Well, filling in for Billy is Brandon Warwick, Free State, Colorado. I'd love to get your thoughts on the. Are you endorsing anybody? Are you even in the Republican? Are you in the Libertarian? I
am registered Libertarian.
You're a registered Libertarian.
The third largest political party we got in the state of Colorado in the country. I think there's a lot of good reasons to do that. But ultimately, I think the Republican governor candidate is going to be it could be a game changer for Colorado long term. You know, I'm on board with seeing Republicans gain seats in the state legislature.
Yeah.
And even if the Republican candidate for governor can't necessarily win, because I don't know if the math is there, they can still move that needle.
And help, right?
And push the culture a little bit. You know what I mean? So to have somebody like Victor Marks is fascinating, right? Very interesting. I love the idea that he can be a good role model. You know, he's not afraid to share his faith. He loves guns. He's talking about child trafficking and human trafficking and trying to rescue people from third world countries. That's all phenomenal stuff, and it's a story. And in politics, stories sell. So whoever has that story and can especially inspire young people and young men to get more involved on the right side of politics in Colorado, I think it moves our timeline up to becoming a free state by significant, a significant margin there.
I'm Brandon Warwick, Free State, Colorado. He's going to be with me all 4 hours. Join the conversation by giving us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Speaking of guns, if you listen to me for any amount of time, you know I care deeply about freedom, responsibility, and supporting local businesses that have stood the test of time. That's why I want to tell you about the Gun Room. The Gun Room has been Denver's oldest firearms dealer since 1982. And when you walk in, you feel it. Real wood, real craftsmanship, a shop that actually looks like a gun store. Less plastic, more tradition. They buy, sell, and consign any and all firearms from antique and vintage to hunting and tactical. And they do something big box stores never will. They work closely with families who've lost a loved one and need help handling a gun collection with care and respect. Look, inventory changes daily, and with over 1,000 firearms in stock, so if you're thinking about buying, especially with new restrictive laws coming, you should act right now. Get ahead of it. Support local, support family-owned, support freedom. Visit denvergunroom.com or call 303-237-1300, denvergunroom.com. That's the Gun Room, a Colorado original. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS.